to our channel. I'm Bella.
I'm Jude.
And today we're going to be reviewing Beetlejuice Beetlejuice because we saw it at the cinema yesterday.
Yep.
We both had very different opinions on it, didn't we?
We did, definitely.
Jude really liked it.
I would say, yeah, I thought it was a perfect sequel. I thought it worked really well. Maybe there were some parts of it I do think that could have been improved on. Obviously, you think that there's a lot that needs to be improved on.
It felt really messy to me and a bit unnecessary. Like, I understand wanting to do a sequel, but some of the things were very much just fan service, and it was like, it's not necessarily needed.
Whereas I sort of think the films are for fans, and to please the fans, I do think maybe you do have to be a bit cheesy and stuff like that, but
yeah, but films are also supposed to be art. You're not really supposed to be doing these things with fans in mind. As a director, you're supposed to do it with yourself and your own vision in mind.
But maybe this film it's not meant to be this outstanding film.
I mean, I just think that Tim Burton hasn't really had his own vision in decades, really. He's not made a great film for me since like the 90s, probably. How about you?
Yeah, I would say the same.
Yeah.
I think it's not like it was going to be his best film ever.
No.
And no one was expecting it. I don't think anybody was expecting it to be outstanding. I just think as a whole production, film in itself, I think if you think of it separately to the first one, maybe it doesn't work as well. I think in some elements of it, it did feel like the storyline was a bit all over the place, and I think that's sort of the style that Tim Burton goes for, a bit of craziness in his films, and that's definitely what this film was like.
Definitely, but I just think he's lacking. He said it himself. He's been lacking the passion behind it that he had with his earlier projects, and I mean that could be for many reasons, but like, I don't know, if you don't have the passion behind your project, don't make it. But he said that he felt that again with Beetlejuice, so that's good. I'm glad he's feeling the passion for filmmaking. I just don't think it was executed very well at all, if I'm being honest. There will be spoilers ahead because there's lots of things I want to discuss.
Yes. I think the first thing that I have to discuss, the first red flag in the film for me was this sort of romance arc with Jenna Ortega's character. I just thought it seemed very like Wednesday, and we're both, we both don't really like Wednesday as a show at all. I thought it was a mess, and I just think it wasn't needed.
No, and then he just disappeared.
He did.
I thought he was going to be like the main arc, so I was like, oh god, here we go again, and then he was just kind of over, and like, whilst I'm glad it was over and he didn't come back and things, also what was the need for him in the first place?
Exactly.
I think there was many different ways that she could have discovered ghosts existed without it having to be a random love interest called Jeremy.
I think it was almost to get her away from her mum, so her mum had her own solo arc, which obviously that has to happen at some point during the film. She has to have her own arc, So I think they definitely could have thought of something better. Although I do think it sort of worked in the sense that it gave us something to do for that amount of time, but that other thing that she could have done something else. Like, I mean, she could have possibly maybe seen her dad in the real world. That would have been cooler. I think.
Yeah, if the reason she started believing in ghosts was because she saw her dad, that would have been
and that could have been popped up around like every part of the film. She could have started seeing her dad from the start.
I thought that was going to happen because there was a whole thing about my mum says she can see ghosts. Why hasn't she seen my dad? And I was like, okay, so is the dad still alive? Something's going to happen with the dad. And the only thing that happened with the dad is they saw him when they were in the underworld, and I was just like, I don't think this was the plan for him the whole time. I think I could have sworn he was going to be alive, the way they kept saying, because she made reference to they never found his body.
Yes.
But he is dead, so why tell me you've not found his body if he is dead? Why not have him be found? Why? It seemed very strange to
be fair, his body
me.
wasn't that ripped up at all.
I know,
so
why would they not have found that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that part of the film, it just didn't seem right. But for me, the reason why I thought of it as a good film is because that sort of, there was so much going on that sort of stuff didn't matter, and that they executed enough right. I think to have that comedy levels with like Willem, and then I think that was right. I think they did that correctly. Maybe just take a few of stuff out of the film, make it less messy. I think they've definitely made a good film. But it's just the fact that they wanted too much. They wanted to do too much. Obviously, they had to make the film longer. It would have been a very short film if they'd have cut that bit out.
I mean, it was quite short anyway,
it was decently short, yeah. And I just think maybe they didn't really know what they were doing going into the film. They just wanted to make it because for the nostalgic element of it, and they didn't really have a plan, and they just thought of it as they went along almost.
Because let's face it, Tim Burton is not great at writing a script. His scripts are very messy. Well, yeah, recently at least, he struggles with story, and I think that still shows through with this, because there's so many arcs going on that you think are going to lead to something, and then they just don't. I think it's setting up to make a third film, do you not?
100%.
Because so many things were left unresolved, and it's... To make a good trilogy, they have to work on their own. You can't... Making a sequel, unless it's something like, I don't know, Dune is obviously leading on to a third part, but that makes sense, that works. Beetlejuice should be able to stand alone, because Beetlejuice is not a big sci-fi... It's not the same.
It's not Harry
you should
Potter,
be able to watch it on its own, shouldn't you? And there are too many things left unresolved.
And also, it's not following on from a book or anything, is it?
No,
so it's like, it's just films.
I mean, it's based on, I think it's based on a character. I think he was a comic or something. But, yeah, I think you've got so much freedom with it, but you're still making a very typical trilogy, because you're not tying up loose ends. There's so much. The ending was extremely messy. I was like, what is going on? The editing was terrible. Pacing was all over the place. So yeah, I had a lot of problems with it technical wise. What about you? Because you still found it work for you.
I think going into the film, I wasn't expecting much, and that's the thing. That can change your opinion on films so much. If you're going into a film thinking it's going to be the best thing ever, and then you go and watch that, you're going to think it's absolutely terrible. But if you go into a film not expecting much, and you have at least an enjoyable experience, I think actually seeing that in the cinema probably makes it a better film. I think the cinema just makes everything better.
Absolutely.
So, I'm not sure. Maybe on the second viewing, which I don't plan on doing, it could be like a worse film, but I think just the fact that it delivered what I wanted it to deliver. I mean, one of the things that carried the film was the cast. I mean, the amount of amazing people they had in that film. I think that really helped it. But then, in terms of the storyline, you know, it doesn't have to make complete sense, because it's a strange film. You know, it's going to be a strange film. But maybe if they'd just took a bit more care with it, it would have worked out better for them.
I missed the kind of storyline that the first one has, because the first one is just following this couple who die, and they're a normal couple. It's nice to follow them. And then some new people move into the house, and it's just dealing with that. There's not many storylines going on, and it works so well. But this is just all over the place. And there was just a gaping hole where Gina Davis should have been. They brushed it over with, oh yeah, we found a loophole and they moved on to the other world. What?
They definitely should have had an involvement. They were like the main characters of the first one.
I get not having Alec Baldwin because of everything, but come on, why not Gina Davis? Like,
yeah,
there's a way of working around it. because you know they can handle these things because of how they handled Jeffrey Jones, which I think they did amazingly.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, just completely ridiculed him, just made it so he won't get anything because it doesn't really use his likeness, is a clay model, and then otherwise he doesn't have a head because he got eaten by a shark.
Yeah.
So they handle that perfectly. So why can't you do the same and bring the originals back? Yeah. With all the fan service,
Yeah.
I was expecting a Gina Davis cameo and I didn't get it.
And it's obviously, it can be all sorts of things, you know, money. Maybe they put all the budget to do with, like, making... I mean, the budget to make a messy film, it obviously, it had everything in it. And that's going to take money. But maybe they didn't need to focus on that necessarily, and they needed to focus on getting a good storyline with a better cast. I think the cast worked, but there were just characters missing. It's not always about the cast, it has to be about characters as well.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of how the film worked without the characters, without the original two, it worked because they brushed it over. But I think if those characters would have been in it, you know, that would have made it a much more whole film. I think there was definitely something missing.
Yeah, it just felt like they were avoiding the subject the whole time, which, I don't know, you can't really do because the whole film was about them. Also, I found that although it's a very good cast, some of the characters just weren't fully realised. Like Monica Bellucci's character, she just didn't really do anything.
I didn't understand that character. It wasn't necessary.
And then she's basically just there because it's Tim Burton's new girlfriend who's way too attractive for him and he's showing her off. That's just what it feels like.
Yeah, and I think obviously she's going to be able to perform that role well. It just wasn't necessary. You know, you could add the best character of all time into that film. It just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter how good someone performs as this character. It's just, if it's unnecessary, it adds too much. And again, that added to the messiness of the film.
Yeah.
Despite me actually thinking it is a good film, that's maybe because, you know, we're nearing Halloween-ish and it's a fun film.
Yeah.
It's not something that I'm going to complain about because obviously I wasn't going into it expecting too much.
But in terms of Oscar predictions,
no way.
The only thing it can remotely get is makeup, which I think it can get in for makeup.
It's difficult. I think with makeup, you know, it's different. You know, the makeup can be either simple makeup, just like looking realistic, or it can be something like extravagant like that, where it's adding all this, you know, crazy deformedness on someone's face. Like, that's skill, but maybe it's more skillful to make someone look realistic.
I think that the Academy could respond really well to it. It would be nice to not have a category that's just full of people in fat suits the whole time, because although I think there've been deserving winners of that in the past, it will be nice to see some creativity. So something I'd love to see in there is Beetlejuice. I would kill to see the substance in there because that's just the most incredible use of makeup this year. I got to see that at Edinburgh Film Festival and I will do a separate review. That's the best makeup I've seen this year. So I really hope that it's not just your classic biopic. I'm hoping not to see a complete unknown in there because it's nothing special. I'm hoping that the more creative things get in, such as this. Even though I didn't like the film, I'd like to see it in there.
Yeah. And I think you have to think, even though the film didn't work as maybe the writing and stuff like that, people have still worked hard on this film to make it look visually pleasing. I think you have to think about how much effort these people go into to add all this, like, behind the scenes stuff as well, and getting everything ready. You can't just blame the film because of bad writing or, you know, anything like that. It's to do with all sorts. And so you could have a really bad film, but if it has, like, makeup, for example, to an extreme level, like it's perfect makeup, but it's just not the right writing on the film, it still deserves to win that category if it's good enough.
Yeah, for sure. There's been lots of films that I haven't liked, but when they get their technical nominations, then you've got to agree with it, because they can be technically perfect, but it's just a bad film, which I definitely think for this.
And there's a lot of films out there like that.
Yeah, but no other categories, I don't think. Yeah, not happening. But, you know, films aren't just for Oscars. It's nice to see Tim Burton using his visual effects again, and I hope he continues down that route and we don't have any more missteps. Although, I don't know, I see this as a bad film, but not necessarily a misstep, because it's Tim Burton back doing what he's best at. Yeah, it's back to his earlier films.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's something to celebrate, and I hope he continues with that.
And hopefully, you know, we see some more films from him that, you know, he can work hard on. Like he's even though it's not maybe worked that well for him with this film, he's still, you know, he's definitely put in that effort and definitely using his creative mind to create this sort of world that he wants. If he can do that with some other things, you know, maybe he does an animation, that would be...
I wish he'd taken that route with Wednesday, because the CGI mess that was the monster in season 1.
I think...
How cool could that have been if it was practical effects? It would have changed my entire outlook on the series, because the cheap looking CGI, it's a bad series anyway, but ruined it for me, because, yeah.
Yeah, I think Jenna Ortega has the potential to be a really good actress. I just don't think working with Tim Burton, I don't think it's the full potential that she can get.
I hope she just doesn't stick to that the whole time, which she's not going to. We know she's been in other projects.
She's only young, and I think she has that potential. The casting for her to be, you know, the daughter of Winona Ryder, it works because she is so similar to her. But I think she could go on to do better than Winona Ryder, to be honest with you. I think so.
Better than Winona Ryder's 2 Oscar nominations.
I think she has that potential.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, she can follow her path, and I hope she does follow that path. She doesn't stick with Tim Burton. Winona Ryder did what? She's done 3 films with Tim Burton, 1 animated.
Yeah.
So she didn't just stick to him. She branched out. She's worked with Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola. You know, I hope Jenna Ortega follows that path and works with more creative directors.
Definitely.
It's a great place to start. They've obviously had a good relationship, and it's boosted her career really well, so I can't fault her for that. Shall we give our scores for the film?
Scores out of 10. So my score out of 10 would, despite giving it a 4 out of 5, I can't give it an 8. I don't think it's good enough to get that.
7.5.
I think it's something like a 7.5 for me, definitely.
For me, I'm sticking to 4 out of 10. It's too many things didn't work for me, I'm afraid, but it was worth seeing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if you just want to get in that Halloween spirit, it's perfect, because...
Why is it released now and not a month later? Seems like
I'll be honest with you, I think it's to sort of release it in the lead up to Halloween.
Yeah,
so people...
because it's going to hit streaming for Halloween, I think.
And that's probably what they think they'll get the most money from, streaming rather than cinema.
Yeah, although it's doing pretty well.
It will do well. It will, definitely. And I think by Halloween, it's probably going to be... I mean, there's not anything else coming out that's going to be rivaling that for Halloween.
No, I'm trying to think what is releasing.
Whether you could say that Joker fits into that category, I don't think so.
No. Maybe people will go see it for Halloween, but it's certainly not going to be a Halloween film.
It's not a Halloween film.
Oh yeah, keep an eye out for our review of that. We're going on the 4th of October. So we'll both be reviewing that. I'm going to have a few solo reviews coming up from my trip to Edinburgh Film Festival. But otherwise, when we've watched something together, it'll be us 2 again.
Yes. All right.
Thank you for watching. Keep an eye out for my review of The Substance.
And we'll see you on the next one.
See you soon. Thank you.